Hello everybody, welcome to Elite Weather. I'm your meteorologist, Mr. G, back with you again on your Monday night. So I hope you guys had a great day at work. And let's talk about that weather forecast. Now we're outside of the Windy City in the city of Chicago. This is the Sky Deck Cam here in downtown. And what we're looking at is a lot of haze in the sky due to those fires up in northern Canada, and that smoke is coming down out of Canada and across the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes, and even toward the Northeast. We're seeing some of the effects of some of that dense smoke in the atmosphere. So we have air quality alerts all over the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. We have air quality issues. So where you can see that in the air here, that grayness, and that's that smoke from those fires up there in northern Canada. So let's move on with the rest of the forecast, where we're going to talk about how hot it is going to be across the Midwest and the East this week. Okay, as we move on with the rest of our weather forecast and get into the meat of the things here, let's start off with what's going on across the Northeast. Now, the Northeast in New England, we are dealing with some rain showers tonight over the interior portion, so the Adirondack Mountain Range, upstate New York, and into Vermont and New Hampshire. We're seeing some rain showers tonight, and we're seeing some rain showers over some of the western portions, so western Pennsylvania, western upstate New York, and then into the Ohio Valley. We're seeing some showers and thunderstorms as well. Now, we still have a risk of flash flooding here across the Adirondacks and the mountains, where we've seen already copious amounts of rainfall, 10 plus inches of rain over the last week or so over that region, and we still stand the threat of more flash flooding across the higher elevations of the Adirondack Mountain Range across the Northeast tonight. And here is a look at that severe weather threat that we're going to be seeing into the Monday, your evening hours tonight. So later on through the evening and into the late night hours, we're going to be looking at some heavy downpours from some of those thunderstorms, and there's going to be travel disruptions because of some of that localized flooding, and we're going to be seeing damaging winds as well, with some of those gusts as high as 70 miles an hour. So let's talk about some of our wettest results in one of the wetter places that we've seen this summer. Albany, New York, for example. This is the wettest July of all of the wet Julys on record. This one ranks as number 2 with 9.41 inches of rain so far for this year, making this the second wettest July on record for places like Albany, New York. And let's talk about that big, our heat band that's going to expand across the Midwest and into the Northeast. And we're seeing that heat down here across the Four Corners and over Texas as well. And that heat is going to expand. We're going to see this high pressure dome, our heat dome, is going to expand, and we're going to see above average heat temperatures across the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and pretty much the entire eastern half of the nation, from the Rockies to the Atlantic coast. We're going to see things get really hot for a lot of folks, and we're going to see a lot of afternoon thunderstorms as well along the periphery of that big dome of high pressure as well. So the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, we're going to see a lot of afternoon showers and thunderstorms along the periphery, but we're also going to be seeing a lot of heat as well, where many places will see temperatures in the upper 90s and even touch 100 degrees. So here's a look at that heat that we're going to be seeing as we head in toward the weekend across the Northeast and into New England, where we're going to see the hottest days of the summer coming. And we're also going to be seeing increasing humidity and a limited chance of thunderstorms. And we're going to be seeing highs 6 to 12 degrees above historical averages across New England this weekend and the Northeast. And here is a look again as we talk about that big ridge of high pressure that is going to open the door for some monsoon moisture across the Southwest. And we're going to see a lot of thunderstorms right through the plain states from the northern plains and the upper Midwest down through the central and southern plains. And we're going to be seeing some thunderstorms right along the northern tier of the country, the Great Lakes, the upper Midwest, the high plains, and into New England because of that jet stream moving across. We have a zonal pattern where the jet stream is moving fast from the west to the east. We're not seeing any high amplitude ridges or troughs this week, and that is because of our big ridge. We have a pretty flat pattern. So that is going to open the door for fast-moving weather systems across the northern part of the United States. So if you are in the Pacific Northwest, the Northern Rockies, we're talking about Montana and North Dakota and Minnesota and Wisconsin, you're going to be seeing repeated rounds of thunderstorms as we have a lot of weak, fast-moving weather systems that is going to be traversing the upper level portion of our ridge and our jet stream. So we're going to be seeing weak weather systems riding along the jet stream and across the periphery of that dome of high pressure down to the south over the Four Corners and in the southeast. Here is a look at, we already see that? Okay, we're going backwards here. Okay, so here's our peak. I had a double map, so we're going to talk about our peak heat. Our peak heat is late this week, for later this week. And we're going to be seeing that across the northeast. So Boston, Philly, Baltimore, New York, and D.C. We're going to be seeing those forecast highs Friday in the upper 90s to 100. We're going to see that 100 degrees across Baltimore, Maryland. And we're going to be seeing that 91 for the folks up there in Boston. And here's our heat indexes where we're going to be seeing it feeling like 95 in Boston, 104 in Philly, 109 in Baltimore, 105 in New York, 108 in Washington, D.C. Now, this is going to be coinciding because of high humidities. So that air temperatures in the 90s and dew points in the 60s and 70s is going to make for really high and uncomfortable heat indexes. So it's going to be really hot out there later on this week across the Northeast. And as we think about how we had it last winter, where we couldn't buy a snowflake, where we had some of the lowest snowfall totals ever recorded across the Northeast, New York and Baltimore and D.C. We saw very low snowfall totals in Boston as well. We couldn't buy a snowflake, and now we've seen tremendous amounts of rain from the mid-Atlantic to the Northeast and into New England, and now we're dealing with oppressive heat that's going to move in. So very dramatic weather again across the Northeast and into New England. So here we are as we talk about some of the mid-Atlantic states and down through Shenandoah, where we're going to be looking at some very hot weather. And this is going to be our forecast temperatures for Thursday. So we're going to be seeing 92 degrees in Jackson, Kentucky. The nation's capital will be at 96, 95 for Hagerstown, Maryland, and 96 degrees in Charlottesville, Virginia. But again, a little bit more respectable humidity for this region, as we're going to have a general offshore flow here. So the humidity will be a little bit lower down across the mid-Atlantic. So that is going to make it a little bit more reasonable as far as the heat index is concerned. Still going to be hot and uncomfortable, but not as bad as it's going to be New York and northward. So again, take precautions with the heat. Get plenty of drink. Stay inside. Don't do too much strenuous activities during the middle of the day. And you might want to water your plants early in the morning or after sunset. Then you can water your plants. You don't want to do it in the middle of the day because the sun will fry your plants and it will evaporate the water and dry your plants out and cause them to, it can kill your plants if you water them during the heat of the afternoon. So here we are as we're going to be talking about the highest temperature so far across the Northeast and parts of the Midwest. So we're talking about DC, New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Cleveland, where we're seeing those highest temperatures have been in the lower to mid 90s. We haven't seen any actual air temperatures yet this year in the triple digits, but we have seen a few instances where those temperatures are from 90 to 94 degrees across the eastern U.S. So the Northeast, the Great Lakes, and the Mid-Atlantic states. And that's what we've seen so far this year from June 1st through July 20th. And that's where we've maxed out at this point. So, now we will see relief in the weather forecast for the Northeast early next week as we start to begin a trough in the east. And we see that ridge amplifies in the Midwest or the central U.S. Our ridge in the west will amplify, and our trough will deepen across the Northeast and New England. So that is going to make a very nice northwest flow, which is going to make things cooler and much less humid across the Northeast. But if you're below the jet stream here and over the Mid-Atlantic states and over the portions of North Carolina and South Carolina, we're still going to remain steamy and a lot of heat and over that region. But this jet stream is going to be dipping to the south. So maybe a little bit of relief might come to these folks later, a little bit later, about midweek or so. We may see a little bit relief. Still going to stay warm, but not as much cooling as we could see across the Northeast. We could see those temperatures come down about 15 to 20 degrees. Here is a look at the tropical Atlantic. Now, we had post-tropical storm Don that formed right about here, and it's still out there. It's no longer classified as a tropical storm, but it's a post-tropical storm, and it's headed out over the open Atlantic, and it's being influenced by dry, dusty air coming off of the Sahara in Africa. So we have dry air off the Sahara Desert, and we have tropical air, increasing moisture. This is an area where we could see further development as far as tropical, but it has a lot of dust coming off of the Sahara Desert, so it's going to be affecting the development of any tropical systems. So far, we've seen very weak. We had Hurricane Dawn for about a day or so. It did strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane, and it lasted about 30 hours as a Category 1 storm before weakening back down to a tropical storm, tropical depression, and now it's no longer has any tropical characteristics, and it's a post-tropical system. But we do have a lot of moisture coming off of the Azores. This is the Azores, and this is moving across the central Atlantic into the southern Caribbean. This is where we're looking for any development. But right now, with a lot of wind shear and dust in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we're looking for very weak tropical development at this time. Now, we still have that sprawling high pressure out to the east, to the west, and that is developing our monsoon flow across the western half of the United States. We have our Four Corners high right here, and that is bringing up moisture off of the Gulf of Mexico into the desert Southwest, and that moisture is being pumped around the periphery of this big ridge of high pressure. That ridge is getting, that moisture plume is getting picked up and circulating around this high, getting picked up by the jet stream and carried across the upper Midwest, the northern plain states, across into the Great Lakes and into New England, which is why we're still seeing a lot of showers and thunderstorms across New England. And we saw storms across Minnesota early today. When I left work, there was a thunderstorm. So we're seeing some thunderstorms across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes and northern plains around the periphery of these two large areas of high pressure. Now we have this is the Bermuda high out over the Atlantic, and also it is pumping in that Gulf Stream air off of the Atlantic, And this is that humid tropical air that's being pulled into the southeast and the mid-Atlantic and again into the northeast. So we're seeing fuel for showers and thunderstorms, but as well as heat. So it's that moisture pump is keeping that humidity high and those temperatures high across the northeast as it's kind of sandwiched between those two big areas of high pressure. So here are some of the heat temperatures that we're seeing. And in Florida, we have a lot of heat alerts into place, and we're looking at a heat advisory across southern Florida. So from West Palm Beach down to Key West, a heat advisory is in place. And then these are some of the temperatures that we are going to be seeing across the northeast as we are looking at Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as we're going to see those temperatures rise from the upper 80s and into the 90s. So a lot of 90s into the northeast for the second half of the week. And we're going to see those 90s, and a couple of folks get triple-digit temperatures across the central and northern plains and the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. We're going to see those high temperatures soar up into the upper 90s to 100. In a couple of places, we'll see a few 100 to 101, like down here across central Illinois and northern Missouri and into parts of Iowa as well. We could see triple-digit heat. So it's going to be very hot out there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. G. So do what you can do to beat the heat and stay cool. And remember, some folks might get an isolated thunderstorm, so we're going to be seeing very unorganized thunderstorms as well across parts of the northern tier of the country. So, but for the rest of you, it's just going to be humid and hot out there. So do what you can do to stay cool. Drink plenty of fluids, water, Gatorade, anything like that with a lot of electrolytes. Stay in out of the shade. Stay in the shade. Find a pool or something or anything you can do. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This video will be both on YouTube and TikTok. And on YouTube, TikTok, if it's too long, I have to split it into 2 videos. So it'll be 2 parts. So, alright guys, thank you for joining me. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.